Hello, everybody, and welcome to my YouTube channel, Plantemas. I'm Gustavo Tolosa, known as the plant-powered pianist. And today, oh my goodness, I have a most special guest. First of all, welcome to all of you, 18,000 glorious subscribers. I need to get to 20 at least, so please keep subscribing. So today, a very dear friend, and I consider her a mentor throughout the years, Chef AJ, the one and only Chef AJ. And I asked her if she would if she would make me one of my most favorite desserts, pies, from her new book, which is Sweet Indulgence. And she said, yes. Now the only thing is going to be to figure out how to get that pie all the way from California to Argentina, where I'm right now. But that we'll see about that small detail later. So please welcome Chef AJ. Hello, Chef AJ.
Hi, Gustavo. Hey, everybody. How you doing? Yeah, I asked Gustavo what his favorite dessert is, and he said he's not really a big dessert person. He's more of a savory person, but actually there is one somewhat savory recipe in this dessert book. And so he wanted me to make the apple pie that won't make you die, which I am going to make for you today. And then maybe we can talk a little bit about the book. I can show you more pictures. I'm just going to put this over here so it doesn't get messed up. I recommend if you get it, you get 2 copies, because then I have another copy that I work with that I don't mind when it gets messed up. This is my working copy. So I have my recipe right here. This is a popular recipe that we make often where I teach in Mexico at Rancho La Puerta in the hands-on cooking classes. People really like this. The only, I don't want to say downside, it is a pie. So it is going to take 45 minutes to cook. However, it really doesn't look any different when it's cooked than when it's not cooked. So the first thing we're going to do is make the crust. And what I love about my crust recipes in this book is they're made of food. You know, if you think of most pie crusts, they're made out of flour, usually white flour, often some kind of oil or Crisco, for example, sugar, salt. That's not food. Mine is made out of actual food. It's made out of oats and it's made out of fruit. I'm going to be using a food processor. I have the Breville. You don't have to have the Breville, but if you don't have a food processor and you're in the market for one, I don't have any affiliation to Breville, but it's just a really, really good, powerful food processor, and it makes all your recipes quicker because it is so powerful. I always say get the biggest and the best that you can afford, because you can do a small recipe in a big machine, whether it's a pressure cooker, Instant Pot, or food processor, but you can't do a big one in a small. So these little mini ones people have to chop onions, or these, 11 quart, they're just not big enough in my opinion, not quart cup, excuse me. You're going to be using what's called the S blade. It looks like the letter S. It does come with other blades, and you want to make sure your food processor is dry. Anytime you're grinding things like oats or nuts or seeds, if you have a little bit of water left from washing it, it can turn it into a paste instead of a powder. So one of the items I recommend in my book, people are laughing about, but it's actually a blow dryer. My sous chef, Rebecca Martinez, discovered that when things don't dry perfectly, just a little whiz with the blow dryer will dry them. So I've already measured out my ingredients. I'm not just doing this because I'm doing a presentation for you, but this is how I always cook and bake. It's called mise en place. You learn that the first day of culinary school. It means everything in its place. And whether you're making one recipe or you're batch cooking for the week, doing this will save you so much time than always having to run to your pantry, your refrigerator, your cabinets to get what you need. So I'm using rolled oats. I always use gluten-free. I am personally gluten-free, but years before I needed to be gluten-free, I always made it a habit just to do everything gluten-free, because I share my food and there's always at least one person that is gluten-free by necessity. So I have my spices, cinnamon, and pure vanilla bean powder. I recommend pure vanilla bean powder over the processed white vanilla powder that's cheaply available in most grocery stores, and over extracts. Extracts are just watered down versions, and also they're liquid, and I don't want to add liquid to the crust and get it any moisture. I'm going to place it in the food processor, and then I'm going to just kind of process it. I don't want to keep going. I mean, you could use oat flour. Any recipe in my book, there's 157 recipes in the book that calls for rolled oats. You could process them all the way into a flour using a high-powered blender or by oat flour. I think it's just cheaper to use rolled oats, and plus I like the toothsome texture of having a little bit of, not being ground into a flour. That's just my preference. So that was 7 seconds. The reason I know that is it's really cool. The Breville actually has a little timer. And so these are kind of like breadcrumbs. And there are some pieces of the rolled oats that are still intact, and that's fine. So then I'm going to add my dates. I like to use Deglet Nord dates in most of my recipes. And the reason is because one, they are the most cost effective. I have never found better prices on any date than the Deglet Nord, especially at Costco. Their organics are just ridiculously inexpensive. And I lived in India, the date capital of the world, and I never found better prices anywhere than the Costco dates. Also, they come pitted. When you're making as many desserts as I am, or I was a pastry chef at a restaurant making desserts, it's kind of a long process to have to always pit your dates. Now, if you're eating dates because you enjoy them, which I do, they're delicious and they're way better for you than eating anything with sugar, I wouldn't choose a Deglet Nord for that. I would probably choose the Bari date or the Medjool. But the Bari dates are way more expensive. They taste like craft caramels. They're amazing for eating. And the Medjool dates, as wonderful as they are, they're just really, really sticky. And I'm usually looking for a drier texture in these things. And it's just much more cost effective. So I'm going to place this in the food processor. And I hope that they really are pitted. Every now and then you'll find a pit, but you'll know pretty quickly because the food processor will slow down. Just like that. See, it slowed down because there is a date. And so what you can do to alleviate that, it always ends up on the blade. But what you can do is just take the time, which I didn't take the time to do. It's kind of like do as I say, not as I do, to cut each date in half with a scissors. So let's see if it processes now.
Yeah.
Oh, it says, so I know that was long. It actually only was exactly a minute. And this is why I like the more powerful food processors, because other food processors will take longer. You'll know it's ready because it will either actually form a ball or start to slow down. And then you stop your food processor and you grab a little bit in your hand. And if you can smush it into a ball, but then if you can break the ball in half without it crumbling, I call that the break point, it's ready. And so you can't feel this, but this is a little bit sticky. And I find that when I use the Medjool dates, it's like even stickier. And that's why I like the Deglet Nord. So I'd rather have you use any date than use any kind of sugar, that's for sure. So I'm just going to place this in my pie pan. This is a Pyrex. I like it because it's purple. And this looks like a 10-inch, not a 9-inch to me, because I like it a little bit more surface area than really, really, big. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to press this into the pan. Now, the thing is, this crust, you could eat it right now. The great thing about vegan and plant-based baking is like you could eat raw cookie dough if you wanted to, because there's no eggs, there's no salmonella. And a person that is a raw foodist could make this recipe raw by doing the following. One, instead of just using regular rolled oats that they get somewhere, there is a brand you can get now that's sprouted, and so it's ostensibly raw. My friend Lissa of Raw Food Romance told me about it. And then instead of baking it in the oven, they could dehydrate it. So if you have friends that are raw foodists, you could make this pie raw. You probably could eat it without cooking. That's true. I just feel it tastes a little bit better when you cook it. So I'm just pressing this so that the crust comes up over the sides. This is a fun thing to get kids involved. This is why humans have thumbs, because you need them to get that little lip, to get that to be pushed up like that. And I do like it cooked a little bit because, like I said, the stickiness, that will become drier. But, if you don't have time, you could just eat it right away if you like. And this is a base I use for many of my recipes, either using oats, nuts, or seeds in combination with dates and spices to make things like truffles, to make things like pie crusts. And what I love about it is the pie crust, if you think about traditional pie, it's the filling that's very sweet. The crust is not. And maybe you like it, but I never cared for crust of traditional pies. The crust in many ways, I feel is the best part because this basically is my snickerdoodle recipe that is made just into one large crust. So we're just going to be pushing around. And while I do that, I'll tell you what's going to go in the filling, which is basically apples. And Charles, I did forget the date paste in the refrigerator. If you don't mind getting it, it's open in a little small blue thing that looks just like this. I did make the date paste in advance because I just always have date paste on hand, and it lasts for a very long time in your refrigerator, even longer in the freezer. And date paste is amazing. It's just the coolest. That's what I've been using exclusively as my sweetener, date paste, and date syrup since I stopped eating sugar on July 6, 2003. That was a Sunday. I'll never forget that day. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done, but the payoffs were great. And one of the reasons I like dates better, or any fruit, doesn't have to be dates, any dried fruit or whole fruit, is fruit is a whole food. It's found in nature. It contains water and fiber and vitamins and minerals, phytochemicals, antioxidants, micronutrients. All sugars contain none. So I don't use honey or maple syrup or agave or barley malt or molasses or rice syrup or coconut syrup or sugar or whatever it's called, or monk fruit or stevia. I don't use any of them. I use the fruit, the whole fruit, nothing but the whole fruit. My philosophy is if Dr. Goldhammer, that is, who I'll be interviewing live at 11 on my channel, won't allow it in True North, I don't allow it in my body. That's just my philosophy. But you can do you. And I don't find that these are addictive in the same way as sugar. Yeah. So I don't have a problem eating any kind of fruit. So here we have our beautiful pie crust, and we are going to fill it now. So I'm going to cut up these apples, and I'll show you a few different ways. So it depends how precise or perfect you want to be. My philosophy in cooking and in life is done is more profitable than perfect. So I like to get things done quickly. But if you want like perfect, what I recommend is this little tool. I paid $20 for this when Bed Bath & Beyond was open, and then with my coupon, it's called the Vidalia Chop Wizard. I still see them on Amazon, and it comes with different size grates. And what you do, it's like a slap chop, and then every single cube is perfect. And if you wanted a smaller grate, you could just use this size. This is probably too small in my opinion. So if you want it perfect, if you don't have great knife skills, you could use that. So that is one way to do it. But I'm going to just use the lazy man's way and use my food processor. But first, what I'm going to do is cut up these apples. These are, can't remember the name of these apples I bought. I always look for envy. I always look for the sweetest apple for dessert, with one exception. When I'm making my caramel apples around the holidays, then I look for green apples. But in desserts, I want the sweetest apples. So an envy, a gala. These might be Honeycrisp. I don't remember. Wait a minute. These are envy. I did get these. That's right. These are envy. They just look a little bit different. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my apple slicer, and it comes in 8 or 16. This one is 16. This one is 8. It just depends how big you want it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this, and then I'm going to cut these up in the food processor because it's easier for me, and I don't have the greatest knife skills. And I also have this thing called trigger thumb, which is, comes and goes, but it makes it really kind of difficult for me to use a knife. So my philosophy is if there's a machine to do it, why would I want to do it myself?
Tell us the date paste. Did you say that you make it, or do you purchase it already made?
So I make it, and you can purchase date paste. And believe it or not, people that are not, used to cooking or baking with dates probably don't know that date paste has pretty much always been commercially available. Not so much in mainstream stores, but at least all the years I lived in LA, we're talking, 20 years ago, any kind of Middle Eastern or ethnic store had date paste. And I love Date Lady, who makes my favorite organic date syrup, also sells it. There's nothing wrong with it. And let me first explain what date paste is commercially and why I don't use it for my recipes. So if you can imagine a shower head, you take a shower, the water comes out all these little holes. Well, if you think about it, that's how they make date paste. It's called an extruder. If this is a bad example because we don't eat meat, most of us, but like when they make chopped liver in a deli, it's an extruder. So it's this machine that pushes the whole dates through and it comes out in little pieces. So it's pure. There's nothing in it. But my date paste has a certain ratio of dates to water based on the recipe. So I cannot guarantee if you use commercial date paste, it's going to come out exactly right. It's going to be drier probably. It's not going to process as easily. And also, you're not saving any money buying commercial date paste. It is much more expensive than making it your own. So that's my pitch about that, but there's nothing wrong with it.
I think
got one more
I think that an apple core went in the processor.
Oh, yes, it did. You are very observant. And luckily, I found it in time. Thank you so much. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pulse this into, smaller pieces. And there was one time, I'm going to tell you, I forgot what happened, but never walk away from a hot stove or anything that's running. And that's why I don't understand how anybody continues to maintain healthy eating without an Instant Pot, because if I cook on the stove, I'll burn the house down because something invariably is going to call my attention. So I walked away from it, and it basically made almost applesauce. But you know what? The pie was pretty good. It was still good. So I want a little bit of texture, but I don't want big, big chunks. So I'm just going to pulse it until I'll tell you when.
Okay.
And that looks perfect. And that just took seconds, So we'll take our bowl. And now we're going to dump our apples in there.
Oh, wow.
Also, I think, I have a little bit of TMJ occasionally. And so I don't want these big chunks of apples. But if you like it, that's how you could do it. I remember growing up, there was an applesauce pie that my mom would make. And it was actually made with applesauce in case you didn't have apples. So now what I'm going to do is get a towel. So now I'm going to add the rest of my ingredients. These are really simple ingredients. And I would guess that if you don't already have these in your house, you could probably get them easily. At least where I live, everything that I'm using today is available at Walmart, because I know that because some of the classes I teach for the hospitals, that's one of the restrictions. Everything must come from Walmart. So then I have my seasoning, which again is cinnamon. There's a lot of cinnamon in this pie, but I love cinnamon. And again, I recommend with spices, just like with culinary equipment or anything in life, get the best you can afford. I know everyone wants to save money, but in things that like food, you don't want to go cheap with bulk cinnamon or, subpar vanillas, like imitation vanilla. I like local spicery, or there's other fine brands that you can get. I prefer the cassia cinnamon because it's sweeter. It actually tastes like sugar. And I'm going to add some golden raisins. And the reason is because they taste better to me. The dark raisins have a very strong, almost prune-like raisiny taste. The golden raisins to me just taste like lovely little bits of sweetness. And also because you can't see them, it's like you get a little surprise in every pie. And so now I'm going to take my date paste. And if I had made the date paste in front of you, it would be, semi-solid or liquid. But once you refrigerate it, it becomes very firm, and which is great because if you eat toast, this would be a great spread instead of jam. And we use it to make pretty much lots of the recipes in the book, not all of them. A lot of them are using whole dates, and a few of them use date syrup. And we're just going to mix this up. It's actually a really easy recipe to make. And if you have the time, it takes a little longer, but the crust that I showed you to make, you can make 4, depending on how big, 4 or 6, maybe even 8 individual pie crusts. And that's really fun to make individual ones. People do like individual things. So we're going to just mix this up.
Is that how you usually sweeten things with dates or date paste, or is there
only that? Since, like I said, it's been over 21 years, and that's why this book has taken a long time to write, because I had to figure a lot of things out. But no, I haven't used any kind of sugar or fake sugar for over 20 years. So yes, and I don't see why more people don't jump on the fruit bandwagon, because it doesn't have the same addictive pull. Even people that say, oh, I'm a sugar addict, when you eat food that has food from it, like, with it, like dates are a food, whereas sugar is not a food, you know, it's not that these are calorie-free things, although there are some very low calorie dense and lower calorie recipes in the book. It gets mitigated by all the fiber and the water that you're able to actually not eat the whole pie. I don't think anybody will be able to eat this whole pie. It's just not that, not for me anyway, triggering. So what I'm going to do is going to press the top over it, and I'm going to show you a couple of ways to finish it. So
right. Someone is asking, is the crust she made here the same crust she makes and keeps in the freezer?
I don't keep this particular crust in the freezer, but the recipe, because it's big, but the recipe for this crust is the same as my rustic fruit tart that I make, and I'll show you the picture. I make them individual. And so what I do is I bake them for 5 minutes and I keep them in a Ziploc bag in my pantry for when I need a quick dessert. So yeah, good call. So thank you. So, we could just bake it like this. There's nothing wrong with that. So I'm going to show you a pretty way to dress it, and the way I dress it, because I don't. So Hannah Kaminsky, our wonderful photographer, made like it's like a flower design, and it's absolutely beautiful. And she sprinkled it with cinnamon and a little bit of unsweetened coconut. And so we could take the time to do that. But generally, what I just do instead, let me see if I get that so you can see it. Oops, here we go. We're going to, towards me, or yeah, we go. I'm going to take one apple, and this time I'm going to use my cutter that has 16 instead of 8 to get as many pieces as possible. This one's not standing up straight. This is not a standing up straight apple, so hopefully I can still, it's not perfect. So then I love this because then you go like this on the bottom, and all the pieces come out like that. I just love these little tools. Even if I'm eating an apple, which way do it go? Towards me? Yeah. Even when I'm eating an apple. When I'm eating an apple, I do the same thing because I like little pieces and it's just easier for me to eat. So now I'm going to take my pie and then I'm going to decorate it. Not as pretty as Hannah, but what I often do, sometimes I'll push it in this way and sometimes I'll just push it in, kind of make like a little starburst pattern,
Yeah, that's
like
very
that.
nice.
Yeah.
I remember from your little apartment in Sherman Oaks when you were testing some of these recipes, not the apple pie, but remember that we did a webinar with several desserts.
Absolutely.
Like
we did. Mm-hmm.
So I did get to try some, but I never got to try this one. So
because this one wasn't created at that time, and back then, I really have started eating, more of the low calorie density, less rich desserts than that we did in the webinar with all the peanut butter and the chocolate. What's nice about this is it's not set in stone, so you can keep moving the slices to make more room. You could see that because the apple was not even, some of these are bigger, but that's okay. You can put one in the middle. I'm not so worried about being perfect. So, but I'll press it in. It's just kind of fun. Yeah, it's kind of nice because what happens is when you press it, it also makes it kind of easy for cutting. And then this is optional, but if you want, you can just drizzle a little bit of date syrup over the top. And it's just because it kind of browns it, And
it'll caramelize, I guess.
And the thing is you don't have to, you could get a pastry brush, but the thing is it moves on its own. So I would estimate that when I do this, it's maybe 2 tablespoons, but I don't measure because if I measure, then I got to dirty another thing, So I'm just squirting it around. It will move on its own. This is a small bottle, the kind they sell at Walmart, but usually I buy the half gallon at iloveDatelady.com because she gives me a 10% discount, which she'll give you with the code Chef AJ. There's one optional thing you can do. I'm just going to grab something from my refrigerator.
Okay. Yeah, that looks delicious and it's 5 minutes. Okay.
There's a recipe in the book for these. It's called streusel crumbs, and I'm obsessed with this because I've been using it for every recipe. And I just like to just sometimes, I just like to make it even more decadent. The streusel crumbs can be made low fat or high fat. These are the lower fat ones. I make the higher fat ones with pecans for Charles, but this just, I just love these crumbs. I put these crumbs on so many things. You can actually, if you want a quick dessert, you want, let's say you want an apple pie, but you don't have the 45 minutes to bake it. What you can do is you can make these streusel crumbs, take an apple of your choice, cut it with the apple cutter that has 16 slices, place it on a microwave safe plate, sprinkle it generously with streusel crumbs, and microwave it for about 2 minutes. And it's like you have your own individual apple pie. And sometimes I put this whipped cream on it that I make with pears. And it's just, I love it. So I know this is going to make it look a little bit less pretty, but I care more about the taste than I mean, if I was serving it to company. So great. So now we're just going to place this in my preheated 325-degree oven. I'll be right back.
All right. And while you do that, I'm going to put here in the comments area the link to get the book. And when you get the book, you get a ton of bonuses. So
yes, thank you for mentioning that. So I'll just mention what the bonuses are and how to get them and why we're doing it. So this is my 4th book, and this book is not self-published. It's with a publisher, and it's my goal and my dream to become a New York Times bestseller. And to do that, I rely on what's called pre-orders. So anytime you buy a book, of course, I appreciate it. But if you buy it on or before midnight Pacific time on Saturday, August 31st, it does count for the people that curate the New York Times bestselling list. And so to incentivize people to buy it sooner rather than later, we are offering over $1,000 worth of bonuses if you simply upload your receipt, regardless of where you buy it, to a specific website that Gustavo has. And then we virtually will send you a recipe video of all 157 recipes in this book that I filmed, plus other bonuses like an 18-hour dessert masterclass that I taught that people, when they took it 2 years ago, paid $497 for. A class I taught with Lissa called Make It Raw, Make It Cook. That's another 6 hours of cooking instruction by 2 good chefs. That was about 6 hours, I believe. And the audio files to my last book, the 10th anniversary edition of Unprocessed. Plus, I think more. So that's the stuff. I'll show you a little bit about the book that I think might be interesting to you. Yeah. So I want to.
What will be fun? What will be fun is that I make that pie and then I show you how it came out when I made it.
I think you should. So on page 12 of the book, we have. It might be hard to see, but we have this little grid here. And what the little grid is, it talks about the sweetness level and the fat content. And actually, Linda, my wonderful virtual assistant, actually counted not only every recipe in the book, but every recipe that had chocolate or tofu or nuts or that was low fat. So we have that exact, if anybody asks, we know that now. But each recipe has a grid. So it will tell you, is the recipe low fat? So if you're following Dr. McDougall or Pritikin or Ornish or Esselstyn, then this would be the recipes to concentrate on. And I believe there's 108 of them. So most of them are the way I eat today. Then some of them are medium fat. So we call that semi-decadent. It has a little fat, but it's not really high fat. And then the ones like the one on the covers, the cupcake or the cheesecake, those are rich and decadent. So then when it comes to the sweetness level, Janine Elder, the wonderful plant-based author of Potato Wisdom, who designed the book, Hannah Kaminsky took the photos, but Janine did the internal design. She had this idea to have strawberries, because that's my favorite fruit, up to 3 strawberries. When 1 strawberry appears at the recipe, it's subtly sweet, which means if you're used to eating the standard American diet or a junk food vegan diet or serving it to people that don't eat healthfully, it may not be sweet enough for them. 2 strawberries mean nice and sweet, so that most people would think it's sweet enough. And then superbly sweet is 3 strawberries, which are the ones that made the cover. So I think there's something for everybody in this book. There's recipes that are for people that like to dehydrate things. There are recipes for people that are raw foodists. There are recipes that use an air fryer. Most of them are just needing just a food processor. But we also have really fun categories in the book that Janine did. Instead of just saying candies, cakes, cookies, pies, and ice cream, we put it into categories of what you actually do to make it. So bake it. These are baked recipes such as bars, brownies, squares, cakes, cobblers, cookies, cupcakes, muffins, and pies. So these are all baked. Then we have chill it. So these are recipes that may be suitable for a raw foodist, but that you don't even have to turn your oven on. And that's a large section, which I love, like the cherry cobbler, for example, the banana cream pie, the strawberry chocolate cheesecake. We have a small section called Crunch It. These are very crunchy recipes that use a dehydrator. And I have some incredible granola recipes in there that don't use any nuts. One does, but a couple of them do, but most of them are very low fat, which are great for travel. We even have a chocolate covered kale chip in here. It's called Mind Blowing Kale Chips. A couple of recipes are called Dip It. These are things that you dip, like the chocolate fondue in the strawberry salsa with cinnamon crisps. Freeze It is a section of desserts that don't require an oven, but that you just make with a food processor and stick them in the freezer. There's 4 recipes in Fry It, meaning you could use an air fryer. 3 recipes in Iron It, not this way, but a waffle iron. Lick It is a bunch of different types of popsicles and ice creams and nice creams. 2 recipes in Nuke It that use a microwave. A few recipes in Pop It. These are things like little truffles, like the Goodman peanut chews. Then we have Sip It, which are the different milks that I make, MYLK. Smoothies and shakes and other fun beverages like snow cones. Spoon It are things like puddings and parfaits. Spread It, things like jams, chia jams. Sprinkle It, I showed you. Squeeze It would be sauces. And I just want to show you a few of some of my really favorite pictures of the book, if I can. Oh, well, this is a really fun photo because this is me at all various stages of life eating desserts from the time I was a chunky little kid to my sweet 16 to my 21st birthday. But desserts were always a big part of my life. And some of you know I used to weigh 70 pounds more than I do now, but I don't feel like you have to dessert. I think you just have to change the composition of the dessert if you want to continue enjoying desserts in your life. I'll show you a really cool photo. Here it is. I love this photo because I don't have much of a visual eye. That's not me. I'm more kinesthetic, the way things taste. And Hannah Kaminsky is such an amazing photographer. When I worked at the restaurant as a pastry chef, thank God I didn't plate the desserts. I had Arthur doing that because they would look just like a hunk of cake on a plate. But I had this idea for a photo and she said, I don't know. And then she executed it. And it's a grid with all the different little puddings and each one has a spoon. So I just think that's just a fabulous photo.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I don't know why, and this didn't make the cover, but I think it could have. My favorite photo is this one in the book. And this shows the mango mousse tart, which is Dr. Goldhammer's favorite, the cherried squares, which is one of my favorites, and the raw German chocolate cake. So, by the way, this is my working copy, which is all beat up, but the book is hardcover. There is a photo with every recipe, and the pages are glossy. And the reason is because if you do spill a little something on it and catch it right away with glossy, you can often wipe it off. And I dedicated this book, Gustavo. Obviously, we didn't know that Dr. McDougall was going to pass away. However, I dedicated it to another one of our wonderful mentors in loving memory of Dr. Hans Diehl. So,
I know.
Yeah.
Well, you like you said, you do have something for everybody in there. I mean, there's literally something for everyone, and you don't have to, give up some of your sweet tooth to continue losing weight.
Yeah. One of the things I want to say about hardcover books is, this is very heavy, is what some people like about it is you can see if I'm cooking from it, a hardcover book opens flat and stays flat. Whereas this mock-up book that was not hardcover, I've been using it so much, but it doesn't really stay open as much. And then the pages don't stay quite as nice. So, that's it. There's a website, sweetindulgencebook.com, or if you just go to my website, chefaj.com, it tells you how to pre-order. It doesn't really matter where you pre-order because the New York Times bestseller list likes people to get it from a variety of places, although most orders will come from Amazon because Amazon offers free shipping. If you live in the United States and would prefer a signed copy, you can get it at a place called A Seat at the Table. It's a local bookstore. I'll be doing a book signing on Sunday, August 25th, if you're in the Northern California area, and they can actually ship it to you, and it will be signed. And then, of course, Barnes & Noble or anywhere that books are sold, because this is not a self-published book. So, I would appreciate everybody's support.
Yes, yes, please. We all need to get you there to the New York Times.
Well, and it's not, I know it sounds like a very selfish goal and it is a personal goal, but
It's
what
just
I want people to, well, I want people to understand something about books in general. And, when a vegan book does well, it gets the attention of major book publishers so that other people that are coming up in the ranks can get book deals and that more vegan books will be out there. You go to Barnes and Noble and there's a cookbook section, but there's not a lot of vegan books. There's some.
no.
And so when a book does well, that's why we're so happy when anybody does well, whether it's an Amazon bestseller or a New York Times bestseller, because we want to promote healthy eating to the world. And so I'm hoping that because this book is not just vegan, but it's also gluten-free, which is a large section of the population that eats meat, and also refined sugar-free, because there are people that will never stop eating animal products, but that for whatever reason choose not to include sugar. I'm hoping this book will cross over and reach people that aren't just people that are vegan, although that's my audience and I love you.
Right, right. And well, do you think this is it, or do you think there will be other books in the future?
You mean from me? Well, it's like, have you ever met anybody? Like, I have a friend that has 8 kids, and I know that every time she had a kid,
Yeah.
she's, so I always say this is the last one. This one was a labor of love. This was the most expensive one to produce because photos are not cheap, and that took the longest. I don't know if I'd ever go. Hope no publishers are watching. I don't know if I'd ever do a published book again because there's just too many things that you can't control, whereas self-published books, you have a lot more control. So probably, even if it was a major publisher, I would probably not go with a publisher again, to be honest. So maybe I shouldn't be saying that on a YouTube, but I. So I mean, maybe
it's good that you had the experience, that you've tried it. Because
I mean, there. If you're Stephen Kuntz and what's the other guy? Dean R. Kuntz and Stephen King. And you can get your book into Costco and sell 1 million copies. Then maybe you want a publisher, but we'll see. I mean, I've had some publishers, come knocking at my door. Penguin, who did Dr. McDougall's book, but people don't understand. Like, they take all the money. So it's not very, you don't write books to become rich, guys. Let me just tell you that. You do it to get the message out. And I mean, unless you sell 1 million copies like Colin Campbell, these are not things, people think like you make all this money from the book. I mean, traditionally people like to have publishers make $1 a book.
Right.
I know it's crazy.
Yeah, so $1 a book, if you sell 2 million, then you're making.
Yeah, who sells 2 million? You're lucky if you sell 10,000 or something like that. So but I might, if I have something to say. But I really enjoy. I'm not really a natural writer. I feel like I'm more of a speaker or a teacher. So I'll probably do more things like summits and classes and things where I can talk more than I have to sit there and type. I like to teach people how to cook.
Yeah, and this is this is a unique book because there really aren't any very good desserts that are plant-based. I mean, we know there's a vegan and they have coconut oil and all, whatever processed foods, but this is unique. This is.
I'm proud of it. And even if it doesn't become a bestseller, I'm proud of it. And hopefully it'll stay on the shelves at bookstores and will attract attention of people. I think my biggest love is I love hosting conferences, and I'm getting back into that. I've been hired to host other people's conferences. So I do enjoy the live aspect of seeing people in person. And I also love the cooking. And by that, I mean the interactive cooking classes that I've been doing, where I'm not just cooking and you're watching. You're cooking and I'm watching. So we've been doing that for a while. So, because I feel like I can help people more. If they can't be here with me in person, I feel like if I can get into their own kitchen and, because a lot of people will write an email saying, well, why did this happen? And like, I don't know. Can you show me? So when we're cooking in real time together, it's actually really fun to cook with friends. So yeah. And this will also make a great holiday gift when the holidays come. And I just hope
birthdays, holidays, anything. And somebody is asking. I mean, it's a funny question, but where did you buy your shirt? Because
so if the person wants to know the exact artist, I can give it to you later. It is from Etsy, and I love what she did with my name here, kind of disco chef AJ. I don't remember her name. She is on Instagram too. And if you really want to know there's a lot of people that do this on Etsy, but if you want the exact person, and it was not very expensive. It was like $60, which is not tremendously expensive for hand design, because I kind of told her the colors that I wanted. So, yep. The only thing is it doesn't have pockets, and I'm so used to having a chef coat with pockets, So,
right.
But I do love it. It's just so pretty. So thank you.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice colors. Very nice color.
Yeah.
I mentioned it in the announcement of the YouTube live that I was going to ask you, what are the things that you dislike, whether it is food or things to do? Do you have anything that you?
Well, okay. Even though I'm a vegan for ethical reasons, I'm going to say at the top of my list is mosquitoes. And the reason is I am allergic to them. And I didn't know that till I moved up here to Northern California, because I had never probably been bitten to the degree I am. And when I get bit by a mosquito, I get a size, it's like a half of a golf ball. And that's what happens to me. And then then I have to take steroids, because there's no way, there's no anti-venom for mosquitoes like you can with other things. And so that's what I really dislike mosquitoes, because I am so allergic to them, and I get these welts and they're painful. And like I said, I have to go on 3 medicines, steroids to just stop it. And then these 2 other creams. And so I would say mosquitoes are at the top of my list.
At the top of the list. And anything that you don't like to do, like, you mentioned something that you don't like to go to funerals.
Oh no! Well, yeah. I mean, who does? I'm Jewish, and they say that going to somebody's funeral. Well, there's a word in Jewish called a mitzvah. It means a good deed, but it's generally a good deed that's either done anonymously or that can't be repaid. And they always say that going to a funeral is the ultimate mitzvah, because that person can never repay you for that. I mean, I will go to funerals. I don't enjoy going to funerals, but I'd rather go to a funeral than go to the dentist. That is my number one phobia. You think I'm going to be 65. You think I would make peace with it. I went to a pedodontist till I was 40, and he kicked me out of the child's chair. So yeah, having a day, getting bit by a mosquito, going to the dentist, and then having to go to a funeral would probably be my least favorite day. And the other thing I don't like is I don't like moving. And I've moved 4 times in the last, couple of years, but I don't mind I don't like being in the new location, but the packing and the unpacking, that's really yes. It's worse when somebody else asks you to help them move. It's so funny, because in my 30s, I had a wonderful Toyota pickup truck. Big mistake. Never get a truck, because when you have a truck, you're always going to be asked to help somebody move. So I learned that, not get a truck, not get an SUV, and then you can't help people. And as far as food, I mean, I'll eat things I don't like, but that doesn't mean, like, I don't like figs. I don't like celery. And I don't like cooked buckwheat. I like raw buckwheat. But if I'm hungry enough, I'll eat it. I don't really like mushrooms either. But it's not to the degree that I will I'm not going to eat it, But like, I'm not going to choose it like at a restaurant or you know what I mean?
Right.
But I'm not really that picky. But my favorite food is the Hannah sweet potatoes and broccoli. Now, okay. So my favorite food now, that's my favorite lunch. I'm obsessed with vegan sushi. We have a place up here called Makuni's, and I'm going to be learning how to make it next month. And I am obsessed with vegan sushi. It's my favorite thing in the world. And what I do, since I don't know how to make it yet, is I make a deconstructed sushi bowl. That recipe is on my YouTube channel. And it's like our favorite thing to eat in the whole world. And so what I started doing, because my second favorite food is nachos, is I started making sushi nachos. And that's just mind blowing, because you put the sushi bowl on the baked tortilla chips with the sauce. And it's like, that's my favorite thing to eat. So I love that. Yeah. We had a ladies luncheon this weekend where we made jewelry, and actually made a pair of earrings for Shada. I don't know if she watches your channel, but I'll be mailing that to her for her upcoming birthday soon. And so I made the lunch. We had enchiladas, and it was delicious. And then we did some jewelry, and then they wanted dessert. And I had the Snicker bar pie that I had made in the Forks Over Knives demo last week. And everybody was eating the dessert. And it's like, I just went back and had more sushi, somebody brought sushi. So it's like, I don't know what happened, but I am obsessed with sushi. I think I like food that I can eat with my hands. I really do, because if you think about it, sushi, nachos, I like things that you can pick up and just put in your mouth easily.
Yeah, that's true. I am obsessed with sushi. I love it, and I want to learn how to make it, because once you get the hang of it, it's not that hard, but you have to practice it, of course.
Right. Well, if you could come here in September, you can take the class at McCooney's. But one of the things they teach, these look so easy, is of course you can make the inside out roll or the sushi roll, but they teach you how to make the really easy one where the nori is almost like an ice cream cone. And that's what I'm going to make, because I don't need it to be pretty. I want to just, eat it and put it in my mouth.
You're right.
Yeah, it's so good. Oh, man. And I've never had, even when I wasn't vegan 47 years ago, I never ate fish because I thought it was creepy. So I've never tasted, sushi, fish sushi. But I'm going to be going to Vegas next month, and they have an all vegan sushi restaurant called Daikon. And I've already talked to them, and I said, can we film? Because the whole menu is sushi and vegan. So they'll have things, traditionally regular restaurants will usually have 3 vegan sushis. They'll have the cucumber roll, which is just cucumber and the rice. They'll have the cucumber avocado roll, and maybe they'll have one with, carrot, avocado, and cucumber. And this place is like, everything is sushi. They use jackfruit, they use pickled radish. So I cannot wait till September 4th. If any of you live in Vegas, meet me there. I'm going for lunch to Daikon. I am so excited. I might have to move to Vegas now. If there's a place to get vegan sushi, I might have to move.
Well, you're gonna have to do another conference in Las Vegas.
I would like to. That's funny, because I'm actually going there to do a meal tasting, because I shouldn't really be announcing this now, but an event producer is wanting me to host. So get on my mailing list, because if it's announced. But I will tell you, if I do a conference in Vegas, we usually have a VIP social Friday night. It's going to be a sushi social.
It's going to be sushi.
It has to be a sushi social. Say that 10 times fast. Sushi social, sushi social.
Right.
Let me tell you how many minutes it has left. The thing is, I'm going to be completely honest. I could take it out and show it to you early. It really doesn't look any different than when it went in.
It doesn't look any different, right? No, it's okay. We saw it.
One of the things I will... I can take a picture of this one. One of the things I'll say with any dessert, whether it's vegan or not, unless it's something that's meant to be hot, like a chocolate souffle, let it cool. Don't try to take it out of the pan while it's still hot, especially when you're using those silicone pans for things like brownies and bars. You have to let it cool, and then you can cut it. And what I love about, not using oil, because by the way, it's not just sugar-free, the book, it's refined sugar-free, guilt-free treats sweetened naturally with fruit. There is no oil. There are some nuts and seeds and avocado and tofu in a few of the recipes, no salt, and only 2 of the 157 recipes call for flour. The others, you don't have to grind the grain if you don't want to. So, but because of that, the cleanup, it's just so much easier when you don't use oil to clean up.
Right. Well, very good. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we're all going to the website to get.
Thank you. I really appreciate your friendship and your support. And I do want to say something really funny, if you don't mind, because like I said, I don't do my show every day anymore. And Gustavo was a regular for several months with breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You can still find those on my YouTube channel, where he did wonderful cooking demonstrations paired with music. But I still do the show once a week, and today is the day for Dr. Alan Goldhammer, who very, very reluctantly endorsed this book. But we have the same publisher, and he said, I think you should call the book Desserts That Won't Kill You. I liked it, but the publisher didn't think that would be a good title. But they won't kill you, and they might even support your health. And, a lot of times I get asked, like, well, I'm a food addict, blah, 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 really, should I be doing this? You have to know yourself, but unless you're somebody that's completely willing to dessert for the rest of your life, my feeling is if you're going to have a sweet treat, have something that's healthy instead of something that's not. And these desserts are made from whole foods. They have the water and fiber, vitamins and minerals, phytochemicals, antioxidants intact, and many of them are very low fat, very low caloric density. These are things, I don't eat dessert every day. I go through phases where, sometimes I want a sweet treat, but then sometimes, there's always something in my freezer if I want it. And I think psychologically that helps just to know, but a lot of times I'm just too full from savory things like sushi. But, I always have dessert ready. Oh, look, we got the holidays coming up, the fruit cake. This is a really nice, holiday fruit cake, even for people that don't like fruit cake. So, yeah, let me see.
What else can you show us there? Because I love the pictures.
The pictures are really the whole book. And let me find some other ones. Well, I got a pic. Oh, here's a picture of me holding the apple pie that I just made.
Yes.
So you can see how it came out. I can actually even send you that photo if you like, if I can find it. These hockey pucks. These were named after Dr. Esselstyn. The hockey pucks. These are fun. If you like chocolate and peanut butter, these are really, really good. And the photos, it's like that's why people like, is there going to be a Kindle eventually? But this is the kind of book I think you really want to get in a book form because it's so pretty, in my opinion. And the Goodman peanut chews. Those of you that got the bundle that Gustavo and I were part of, you might already have this recipe, but this is a great one, the Goodman peanut chews. And lots of fun recipes. And
Well, I appreciate. I know you have another.
I'm going to do one for
Can people watch that? Is that
it's not right away. Actually, my regular show is at 11, and anybody can watch it. You just go to YouTube, Chef AJ, and you can ask Dr. Goldhammer questions. But I'm doing another demonstration for the Center for Nutrition Studies, which is Colin Campbell's organization. And I know it's free. It's just, I think you have to have the link or to register. If you were on my mailing list, we sent it. But and I'll be doing 4 recipes, and they're different ones, not the one that I just did. I'd be doing some different recipes for them. I'll be doing the chocolate mousse and lots of good recipes. I'll be doing a cantaloupe cooler. Oh yeah, this is good. The brownies are really, really good. Oh,
so you're going to have
I'm lucky
we live in your house.
Well, the thing is we have a refrigerator where the freezer's on the bottom, and we're at capacity. So if you live near Roseville, let me know, because I have to be able to give these away, because we just don't have room for it, because we're doing like 1 to 3 of these every day until the book comes out. So we're like up to here with dessert.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, AJ. I appreciate it so much.
Thank you, and thanks everyone for watching, and enjoy the sweet life.
All right, we will. Well, we thank you.
Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.